My name is Ruairí McKiernan, and I have the great honour of being a co-host this evening with Molly Sterling. It's really is hard to it's hard to know what to say after looking at all those names, and indeed it's a subject area that's hard to do any justice to the magnitude of the injustice and suffering and trauma and pain that so many people have experienced and continue to experience even as we gather here this evening. I want to begin by thanking Molly in particular for having the foresight and vision and energy and dedication and drive to initiate this and bring me on board. You know, I think the last month has been one of deep reflection and soul searching for the entire nation. And there has been a lot of discussion, dialogue, reflection, but perhaps we, as often happens, perhaps maybe drop the momentum a little bit and don't move things into a forward motion of action and movement and mobilization. So whilst tonight is a conversation, I also very much see it as about mobilization. And I know I'm very, very aware. I think we have 185 people here with us tonight. And I'm very aware that so many of you are tirelessly dedicated to working on this day in, day out. And many of you have been for not just years, but in fact decades. So I pay particular tribute to all your work over the years. When we read the daily, and I do mean daily headlines and reports, the statistics, the suffering, the stories, it's impossible to just kind of scroll away and look away. For me, it is like there's something about our humanity if we just allow that to be another story, another news story, and say that's just the way it is. That there's something profoundly broken in our humanity if that becomes the case. So I think we have to resist, we have to stand up, we have to shout, we have to say enough. For me, growing up, truthfully, I was very much, like many people, unaware of any of these issues. For the most part, never came on my radar, or at least it didn't capture my attention or my awareness for whatever reason. It wasn't until my late teens that a friend of mine told me her experience of something that happened concerning a family member and some abuse. And I'm just thinking about the event brought back to sitting in a waiting room with her in a rape crisis centre. And that was my first sort of moment of shock and awe and realizing that something was really broken in society. And in the years that have followed, I've heard too many other stories, people close to me, people all around me, mainly women, but some men. And yeah, I've just, my eyes have been opened. So I've just started to question the culture and the conditioning in particular that I was brought up with, certainly large aspects to it. And the profound sort of notion of what it does mean to be a man in the modern world. What does healthy masculinity look like? We do talk about toxic masculinity, but I do think we need to talk about healthy masculinity as well. So I think, you know, when we look at the injustices of what is occurring, I think it is important to say it's not acceptable. We shouldn't allow it to be normalized, and we do need to speak up, particularly men now need to speak up. I was just thinking the other night when we were organizing this event at 9, it was roughly 9 p.m. and myself and Molly were in touch, and she wished me well for the night and so on and so forth. And I was about to tell her that I was off out for a walk to clear my head because I'd spent the day on Zoom, like many of us do these days, living on Zoom. And I actually caught myself because I realized that Molly may not, and I haven't shared this with her, that Molly may not have that same sense of peace or safety or freedom to go for a walk at 9 o'clock. Whether it's Molly or it's some other woman, it's, for me, it highlights a great injustice of what rights or freedoms or privileges that we have. And often it's just such a simple privilege that a man will take for granted, that we can go for a walk after a day's work. And indeed, we know that this isn't confined to nighttime either, that it's very much a daytime and an every time problem. So I think it's time to challenge these systems of violence. And I say systems because I'm also talking about structures and ideologies that are also very much economic in nature and that create hierarchies. I know Connor and others will be talking about this in more depth later on. And I do include this in the frame of the violence committed against the earth and the planet at this time. And I'm aware very much that ancient cultures have always referred to the earth as Mother Earth. And I think there's something in that in the feminine as well. I've been involved in youth work, community work, and mental health for a long time. And some of that has been around sex and relationships. And there's no getting away from the distinct lack of coherent, comprehensive sex and relationship education that looks at sex, that is not something dirty, sinful, secretive, or violent in terms of the violent pornography and so on, that it can be loving, joyful, and beautiful. And I think that has to be a radical overhaul, and it can't come soon enough. I think it's up to men to challenge each other, but also to guide and support younger men and young boys to become mentors, elders, leaders, fathers, brothers, friends, guides, to help show them better ways. And I'll finish up and say that there's no getting away from the absolute abominable system of the criminal justice system and how it treats many survivors of violence, and how it can be re-traumatizing so often, how the reporting systems fail, how the trial systems fail, how their humanity is just really compromised. I'm very much thinking of the court case, which wasn't that long ago in County Kerry, where 50 people lined up to shake the hand of the accused. It was like a scene from medieval times. So whilst I do genuinely believe we are going to make some progress and there are positive moves in place, I don't shy away from the magnitude of the problem that we're discussing here tonight. I'm thinking also of the Magdalene Laundries, all those that were incarcerated, all those that had to leave Ireland because of the lack of the right to choose, all those that suffer from domestic violence, particularly during the lockdown. I'm thinking of women in direct provision, undocumented women. I'm thinking of the stories that we'll never hear, women from all around the world who don't have the right to education, who don't have basic rights and freedoms. I want to remember them and to honor them and to stand with them, that we be fearless in our actions going forward, that we believe that change is possible, that we work for urgent change, and that we celebrate all of you that are working for change, in particular the speakers that you're about to hear. So I'll hand over back to Molly now, and I just want to thank everyone again for being with us tonight. Thank you.